Okay, good, we're live. Okay, let me get this picture. That's perfect. Let me just get this out and we'll be good to start streaming. That's not mine. I'm actually going with it. Sabrina and Ryan, hey, how's it going, you guys? Also, sorry if you hear that up there. My dog's barking like a maniac. I'm just gonna post this in a couple servers, let people know I'm live, then we'll be good to go. Let me go to here. Mm-hmm. And one more place. We'll be good to go. What the fuck? Okay, yeah, no, someone just posted something weird in a Kick chat I'm in. I'm not really in Kick anymore, which is really surprising because I used to love Kick, but I just don't really have time for it anymore. I try to be when I can, but okay, I really need to fix that. No, this is what I need. Text. There we go. But yeah, no, I'm not as active on Kick as I used to be. But you know, maybe I can try. I don't know. I just haven't had time for Kick, honestly. I love Kick, don't get me wrong, but I just kind of prefer Discord more now, so that's kind of my main place now. But yeah, no. Personally, I just think Discord's better than Kick. If you asked me like 2 years ago, I would say I would say the opposite. Kick is better than Discord, but now I think really Discord's better than Kick. Ever since there's that whole scare about Kick shutting down, a lot of people move to Discord, and that's just where all the action is now. But But yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't stream last week, guys. Last Sunday, I did things with a friend. I planned on streaming, but then my friend asked me if I wanted to do something. And then I was going to do it Wednesday again because Monday my classes don't get out till a little bit later. That's my late day at school. And I decided, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try streaming Wednesday. My friend asked me to go get dinner with him, so I did that, and then I came home, and it was later, and I just wasn't up for streaming, and then the rest of the week I worked, so today was like one of the days I could stream. And I'm sorry if you hear that dog up there. I need to go check on if he's doing okay. I will be right back. Sorry about that. My dog's barking because they're shooting off fireworks because my home team, the Kansas City Chiefs, just won the Super Bowl, which honestly I'm okay with because it's like the only football team that I really like. So I'm happy they finally won one. But yeah, no, the people are shooting off fireworks and he's kind of freaking out because of that. But anyway. Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to Cryptocast, your source for all things crypto-related, unknown, paranormal. I'm your host, Parker, and welcome back to another episode of Cryptocast, where we will be... A Cryptocast live stream, I mean, what the hell? We'll be reading more of this book, Ghosts of St. Charles. I actually did a little ghost investigation down there today, and my god, some of the energy... I went to this one... But yeah, no, I went to this antique shop in Main Street of St. Charles today, and my god, the energy there inside of that place was it was crazy. Like, this is right hand corner of the antique shop. There's just so much energy. It felt cooler there, and there's even a tunnel like leading to the outside that they sealed off. So and there have been some investigations there. The owner told me that one of the ghosts in the building they asked what the ghost's name was, and it said Emily, which was the name of the daughter of the original owner of the house way back in the 1800s. So it's kind of crazy. It's haunted. They're like, you can just feel the energy. It's kind of like back by the old antique toy section. I did buy a few things from there, but in that section, I felt the energy, but I really, really wasn't creeped out, honestly. I mean, I felt unnerved, but I didn't feel like it was bad. I just felt there was some energy there. Oh, dude, fucking hell. I should come down to your state one day, man. We could do like a whole like little series looking for the dog, man. I think that would be great, honestly, and I'd love to. And thank you. I try to be nice to my viewers and everything. So that really does mean a lot, Ryan. Though, thank you. Speaking of viewers, next Friday. Actually, I'm gonna extend it to Sunday, the 9th, because that'll be my next live stream next week. Is going to be the end of my giveaway for my little clay cryptid figure that I'm going to make and send out. Like I said, there can only be one winner. Just watch the video for that and just comment below and everything and just follow the prompts and you'll be entered to win. So I'm just giving you guys 2 extra days because I'm not streaming Friday because work and all that. So the latest I can stream next week again is this time next week. So that would be the deadline then, and I'll probably announce the winner on Sunday. So it ends on Sunday before I start the live stream. So you'll have until then to enter to win the giveaway. Oh hell yeah! You got a big researcher coming to Arizona? That's really cool. And honestly, if the dog man that you have there is anything like that one, that picture I sent you, which you said it is, that could be really really nice, honestly. But yeah, no. The energy in that antique shop, though. Sorry to change back to this, but it wasn't bad. It was just there's energy in there, and I could feel it. Didn't feel bad. Didn't feel threatening, but it was energy there, and like I said, there was like the ghost team that like talked to the spirit of the girl and everything, and it was there's just something in that antique shop, and I know like ghosts like to attach themselves to objects and everything other than houses and homes and buildings, but but there was something there's something in that shop, and there could be like other spirits coming in being attached to all of these other old antiques, like this one, like the shop owner told us, there was this clown music box that turned on by itself and it sold, which she's happy about, and it's just, yeah, like it's just like the ghosts that already inhabit the place and then the ghosts that come in via the items that people sell to the shop. And yeah, no, it was a good shop. I did get a couple things though, because I'm an antique toy collector myself. Kind of like, by antiques, I kind of mean like late, I'd say like 60s, like not like dolls or anything. I'm really, really big into just collecting like, you know, like little figurines and stuff, like little plastic figures, stuff like that. I have like a little shelf in my room dedicated to it. There's some Frito-Lay erasers that came in like with packs of Frito-Lay chips, and those are going for like about $20 a piece, depending on the condition. And I have like 6 in like pristine condition. So, and then there's like this whole Kellogg set that came with Cocoa Krispies. It was called Og the Caveman. It was Kel, who is a girl caveman, and her husband Og. And then Og has a friend named Marty, and then there's a cow named Charlie. A full set of that's going for well over $100. I have a full set. My dad has a full set, and we recently found the cow at a toy show for like 50 cents. So he picked up, so now we're trying to get another set so we can have one to sell. So my dad and I each have our own set, and we're trying to get one more to sell as a complete set and everything. But I'm just big into that stuff, man. So I love going to antique shops. It's super cool. You know, maybe at some point when I get enough money or something to move out on my own, I might start a P.O. box and just accepting like fan mail from fans at some point. It's just unrelated to the toy thing. Um, Yo, I love cryptid figures, and I always wanted some fucking Cryptkins. I don't have Cryptkins, man. Hit me up. Maybe you can sell them to me if you want to. That would actually be really, really cool. Yeah, no, just let me know if you want to sell those. You have my info on Discord and shit, so yeah, I'd definitely be interested in those. Before we get started here with the book reading, I'm going to show you guys this. So the basement's used for storage, so I apologize for the mess. We need to go through some of this shit. But I don't know if you can see right there. If you see that thing that's the green, red, and then underneath there's yellow. Those are like different little drawers right there. And those are filled to, and not to the brim. Oh, thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate that. But yeah, no, if you saw those little containers over there, though, that is pretty much where I keep like my little cryptid figures and everything. I have like, or things that are like cryptid related. I have like those little generic alien looking figures that come in and everything. I've got just anything that's a monster that I have. I keep it in there, unless it's actually on my set in my studio, which I still need to move. But yeah, I do really appreciate that though, Ryan. Thank you so much. I guess I'll give you my contact info, or no, you have my contact info. I meant like my shipping info and shit at some point. But yeah, no, I'm really big into that kind of stuff. I honestly just need to get rid of some of this stuff because I have way too much. I have some old board games I need to get rid of. Okay, I'm going to show you something that's going to sound really stupid, but little 5-year-old me thought this was like the best shit in the entire world. Right? So, I have this box, and you can already tell it's full of pom-poms, but little not middle school, like little grade school me, like third grade me, like when Club Penguin was still a pretty big thing. These were going around the playground. These were our puffles from Club Penguin, essentially. And anybody who had one of these pom-poms was cool. I remember I didn't have any with me, and then I found one outside, and I finally felt like a cool kid because I got a puffle to be part of the little puffle club that people started. Now, I just need to get rid of these. There's some of these that are my crafts in here that I made, like, some of these I made, like, back in, like, drop a link. Yeah, definitely. Drop me a link. But yeah, some of these were crafts that I made back when I was younger, like, because I did, like, little stop-motion animation things with them. Granted, they were absolutely horrible, like, on my old slide phone. That's how old this shit is. This is my first OC. Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo. I tried making Pumpkin, the King of Ghosts from Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, you can tell this shit's bad. Little Yu-Gi-Oh! Scapegoat. You can tell I like Yu-Gi-Oh! Pikachu, Pom-Pom, Thingy-Mabob. I did Kirby, but if he absorbed the power of a Magnemite. Koalas and everything, little bugs. I didn't make these things, but that Poliwag's my favorite Pokemon, so I made a Poliwag a while ago. But yeah, I know this, and then like just a good majority of these are just regular ass pom-poms that I just need to get rid of. I'm probably gonna donate them or something unless someone desperately wants some pom-poms for whatever reason. Like this, like I'm surprised though at my art skills because like little 4th grade me made this, and honestly, for what it is, considering how old I was, I think that's pretty good. Rabid squirrel with a bloody hand. Oh my god. When I found blue waffle dragon, when like the blue waffle thing was going around, a Super Saiyan poop. Yeah, no, I did a lot of weird shit when I was younger. But yeah, no, a lot of this stuff just I need to donate some of this shit or get rid of it. Luckily I work at a, like, thrift consignment store, so I can easily get rid of a lot of this stuff. Oh, and there's a Grinch that I made. I just wanted to show that off just because I thought that was pretty damn weird. I keep getting Snapchats from people. Let me just... Alright. So let's get started and start back up with the book. So sorry I got a little sidetracked there. Actually, I'm just going to put these away first so I remember to do that. Alright. But yeah, no, like I was going to say though, like completely unrelated to the antique toys and shit. Probably when I move out or something, which I don't know when that'll be. I'm hoping within the next year or so. I'm probably going to open a P.O. box where like fans can like send me mail and everything, because I think that would be pretty cool. So let's read Ghosts of St. Charles. Last week I ended on page 60. We may or may not finish this today. There is 126 pages in this book, so I would have to read... there's a chance maybe we might be able to finish this. Normally I get about like 20 pages in, so we may have like 1 or 2 more readings of this, but I'm going to try my best to finish it tonight. So this chapter is called The Rude Ghost. One cannot help but wonder what is waiting on the other side. Will it be paradise? Will he meet long-dead relatives? Is there anything at all? Perhaps for some people, the other side holds no appeal. They simply hang around and continue to enjoy the world they knew in life. If they had a good life, a comfortable life, they may be reluctant to leave a good thing behind. Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that, Sabrina. Yeah, actually no, you did tell me about that in the chat. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry to hear about that though. I Yeah, you said you were in the ER all day with that? I remember when I broke my arm when I was like a sophomore in high school, flew over the handlebars of my bike, just slammed my elbow on the ground and ended up breaking my elbow. And yeah, I know that's not fun at all, so I hope she's doing okay. Over the years, humankind has developed different ways to deal with the inevitability of death. In the Middle Ages, few lived beyond 50. A Victorian mother might have 6 children, hoping 3 would survive to adulthood. People simply did not live as long in those days, and this has created a deep-seated fear of death. Could this fear be so strong in some people that they simply refuse to go away? Today, we live much longer, and death has become somewhat remote. Most people under 40 have never even seen a corpse. I have at one point. But I've been to a couple funerals because family members and stuff. For most people, when death finally comes, it is usually in the clinical sterility of a hospital. However, in spite of all these changes, death is just as mysterious in the 21st century as it was in the prehistoric times. The causes of death may change and the frequency of death may change, but there does not seem to be a shortage of ghosts. The new Bill McKinley House is a 5-bay, 14-room federal-style house located at 625 South Main. Currently, the building houses a display of Haviland pottery, but it was originally a residence built by Franklin and Polly Newbill. Here's a picture of the house. Let me just kind of get that. Oh, other way. There we go. There's the house. And this is New Bill McKinley House, circa 1858, photo courtesy of the St. Charles Historical Society. Oh, I'm glad she's doing fine, Sabrina. Yeah, no, I know how much it can suck to break something, so I'm glad she's doing good. The 3 bays to the south are probably the original building constructed in 1836, while those 2 bays in the north and the second floor were added to create an almost symmetrical house. The exterior of the building is unaltered except for the removal of the original chimneys and parapets. A 2-story porch centered in the main doorway and extends north and south along the front wall. A small 2-story L-plan brick building is situated to the rear of the home on the north side. The building is rumored to have been used as slave quarters, which is honestly very, very sad to, kind of think about. Let me just see here. Hold on, while I'm thinking of it, before I forget, because I know, before I forget, last night I had this horrifying dream about the closet in the basement. My whole family was down here, honestly. Even my deceased great-grandma, who I barely got to know, and she was alive in the stream, so it's kind of odd, honestly. But there's this one ghost. There's this girl. She kept appearing in the closet. She was all kind of huddled over like this, and she just screamed. And every time people hear her scream, they had to close their eyes. Otherwise, if they see her, she would curse them, and bad things would happen. And I remember, in the dream, I was just so freaked out. I just kept my eyes closed constantly because I'm a kind of a superstitious person. And I just learned to, walk around the house with my eyes closed and everything. And I remember, seeing... And it turns out that the ghost in the dream was of a family member who died. And I've seen pictures, and then like in the dream I saw pictures of her. I'm like, crap, am I gonna get cursed now? I actually saw her, but it was just old photographs. But still, like, it was just weird. This girl in the dream, like, she was just huddled over, like, in the closet, like she just appeared and just went, ah, just like really loud, kind of like banshee, like screaming, and it was really, really freaky, honestly. But dreams are weird, man. So I remember I was like, oh, I need to do my show today. Like in the dream. But yeah, no, in my dream though, like I remember I'm like, oh no, I'm not doing my live stream down here anymore. This is too freaky. And then I woke up, I'm just like, huh, that was a dream. Like I did my live stream today. Awesome. So I didn't follow what my dream said. In 1858, Dr. William J. McElhinney and his wife bought the house, built the addition on the north, and added the third floor in typical Victorian fashion. They had 14 children. 5 of their daughters were named after southern states: Virginia, Georgia, Missouri, Louisiana, and Florida. It seems they were a southern family through and through. It is not known why, but in 1865, William L. McKinney sold his home. However, he repurchased it 2 years later. Shortly before his death in 1883, he deeded the house to his daughter for $1. But during the probation of his estate, the house was subdivided between 2 heirs. The south half was deeded to McElhinney's widow, and the northern part was granted to his daughter. Ownership was not consolidated until 1888, and for the next 5 years, the house was maintained as 2 independent residences. Finally, the home passed completely from the McElhinney family in 1895. Clearly, during this period of time, the family and the house was in turmoil. It is not clear which of the 5 daughters received the title, but obviously the ownership was in dispute. To add to the confusion, there seems to have been a son who fought in the Civil War on the wrong side. McElhinney's were slaveholders, so their son was fighting for the Union, and they thought that was the wrong side because they wanted to keep their slaves. And by some account, the rogue son was an abolitionist. Did the sale in 1865, after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued, have any connection to this? Was this action perhaps an effort to keep the house out of the abolitionist son's hand? Apparently the son was killed in the fighting. Perhaps with this threat removed, William reacquired and moved back into his beloved home. In any case, from this time on, it appears that no one in the house was content. The records are unclear, but it looks as if the McElhinney fortune trickled away, and after the family left, the house fell into disrepair. Finally, in the late 1960s, the house was declared as a historic site, and serious renovations occurred. But for the 60-year period before these renovations, the information about the house is vague and sometimes contradictory. From the turn of the century until the renovations began, the house was once again used as a residence. It was probably used as apartments, but the records are unclear. It was vacant most of the time. Nobody stayed for long. The noises, especially at night, were terrible, and a general feeling of sadness has been reported. Nobody was able to sleep there. There's even a rumor of a bordello operating from here for a short time. There's no evidence to support this story, but it cannot be ignored. Currently, the new Bill McElhinney house is privately held and contains an extensive display of Haviland pottery. It has been restored beautifully and sits proudly once again in the middle of Main Street. Most people think it is very quiet here, but there are a few people who report things that cannot be explained. The manifestation located here is known as the Rude Ghost. It has never been experienced by a man. Often, ghost stories contain more detail than historical records. The strange events reported here have been passed around for many years and are well known up and down the street. There is little evidence to support most of them, but more than one first-hand account has been collected. Also, the stories are often consistent in the details. There is no reason to doubt the reliability of the people sharing stories of the events. More than one former resident tells that often when someone would walk back into the upstairs bedroom, she would see an impression on the bed as if someone were lying there. The impression would even change shape, as if the invisible person were turning onto his side or moving to the other side of the bed. At least two people that reported that when they observed the impression, I can't even talk tonight, but they observed the impression, they felt as if someone were offering an invitation to join them, in the bed. Several people living there report that while sitting on the edge of the bed, putting on shoes, someone would sit down next to them. There was no touching, but the impression on the bed was unmistakable. One resident worked a second shift and would sometimes take a nap in the afternoon. She said at least twice while she was living here, someone lay down next to her. The third time it happened, she moved. My job has weird hours. Sometimes I don't get until 8 in the morning. I have to do regular things, shopping maybe, I can only do that when the stores are open. Sometimes in the afternoon, I just need to sleep. A few weeks ago, I laid down, I didn't even change clothes, and was just falling asleep. I felt something next to me moving around. At first I thought it was a dog, but I could hear him barking outside the bedroom door. I turned over and I swear there was someone in bed with me, but I couldn't see a thing. I jumped up, let the dog in, but there was no way I could sleep after all that. Today the museum occupies the entire building. No one lives here, and there is no bed in the third floor bedroom. The collection is protected by a sophisticated alarm system, and tours of the museum are by appointment. As a result, the rude ghost has not been reported for several years. Apparently, even a rude ghost is not willing to sleep on fine pottery. The doctor is still in. Even if no one sees the rude ghost anymore, strange things continue to happen at 625 Main Street. The building has been lovingly restored, and many people take photographs here. An early photograph shows the McElhenney sitting on the porch of the home on a fine summer afternoon. The doctor and his wife sit proudly on the porch, and several of the children pose on the steps and the sidewalk. Slightly to the left, a bit of separate from everyone else, is what is believed to be the abolitionist's son. Even here, it seems he is part of the family, but not held close. A number of photographs have been taken here while the museum is closed. No one lives here, but on occasion, people outside report seeing a male figure moving past the security lights on the third floor. At least one of the photographs shows a shadow in front of the shutter on the right side of the door, in the same place the unpopular son sits in the old photograph. In this modern photograph, the shadow seems to be wearing a hat. And smoking a corncob pipe. The details are uncertain, but the coincidence cannot be denied. For the most part, the building is quiet. Just because a house is old does not automatically mean it's haunted. But the Newbill McElhenney house is both old and by all accounts haunted. One sensitive person tells the following story. And before we get it, this is the Newbill McElhenney house as how it appears today. I am always uncomfortable when I pass this building. I don't sense anything evil, but there is definitely something here that is unhappy. It really feels like it is a man, young, and thinks there's much left to do. He is lonely, he likes women, and he gets angry when he is ignored. He does not seem to want to move on. Again, one cannot help but wonder what is waiting on the other side. Death remains mysterious, and the remnants, the ghosts, and the wonderful old houses often supply stories that remain unfathomable. Now the next chapter is called The Legacy of Miss Amy B. Ghost stories are almost tragic stories, and what can be more tragic than a delightful, gracious woman living alone in a large, empty house and the death of a very young child? To the outside world, Amy Becker had an active philanthropic social life, but at the end of the day, all she had was her music, her books, and her memories. One can't help but wonder, was this enough for this active, intelligent woman? Her younger sister, Adelheid, died at 2.5 years old. In such a short life, there is so much she never experienced. Her portrait is displayed in the house even today. Sometimes people get caught after death. They don't seem to realize they are dead. They no longer have a sense of the passage of time. They are still wrapped up in their moral existence and continue to do the same things they did while alive. Frances Martin, built the house at 837 First Capitol Drive in 1863, at the end of the Civil War. Labor was cheap, but materials were costly and hard to obtain. While on a business trip to California, Great-Grandpa Martin saw his dream house. He bought the plans from the architect Henry Kirster, and construction began. It was an ambitious project. Records show that it took 2,000 tons of soil just to bring the land to street level, which is insane. The foundation is high-quality dressed limestone, and he employed expert local bricklayers to erect the main structure. The house is set back from the street, and even today, the front lawn proudly displays several ancient oak trees. Dramatic iron grillwork adds grandeur to the main entrance on the top of the house. A 15 by 15 foot belvedere was used as an extra bedroom for any gentleman guests. The windows of this room are colored glass, providing a wonderful view, and the morning sun would gently wake any overnight visitor. I keep getting Snapchats. Delicate, attenuated columns support the porch. And in the front doors, you find round, arched upper windows and transoms filled with etched glass. Just inside the main entrance is a dramatic walnut staircase with a formidable newel post and hand-carved railings. The two halves of the main floor can be closed off by two huge feather-grained pocket doors. The front parlor has an elaborate coal-burning fireplace with a beautiful marble mantel, but the upstairs rooms were heated by stones and circulators because fireplaces are too much of a heat loss. Martin obtained the best of everything for the house. He bought the finest furniture, silver and porcelain, guided by classic Victorian styles. A bare room was considered to be in poor taste, so every room was filled with objects that reflected the occupant's interests and aspirations. Francis Martin was born in Prussia in 1824. Fuck, if I lived in the Victorian time, I'd have a fucking Furby room. Are you kidding me? Raised and educated in Prussia, he learned merchandising and distilling from his father, Castine Martin, in 1847. When he was 23 years old, he came to America, settling first in St. Louis in 1849. He moved to St. Charles and established himself in the merchandising trade. In 1865, he turned to the operation of flour mills, and by 1885, he was the leading grain dealer in the area. Shipping more than 75,000 bushels a year, which is nuts. Following the death of his first wife in 1851, Martin married Adeline Becker, daughter of Philip Becker. One of the 5 children, Matilda, eventually married Franklin Becker. Franklin Becker was a merchant at the Rector and Becker dry goods store, and for 13 years served as president of the First National Bank of St. Charles. Beckers lived in a house adjoining the Martin property on the east. Following the death of Franklin Becker's wife in 1894, the Becker family, before we turn the page, this is the entranceway foyer of Miss Amy B's home. Oh, wait, other way, there we go. And then this is Miss Amy M.L. Becker in her late teens. There we go. Okay, we're coming along pretty well. The Becker family moved in with the Martin family next door. The Becker house, similar in style to the Martin house, has been destroyed to make room for a church parking lot. Franklin Becker was the father of Amy Becker, the last resident of the Martin Becker house. Amy Becker was born in St. Charles in 1890 and was always described as a lady of refinement and a gracious hostess. The Martins and the Beckers owned the house for a total of 177 years. Miss Amy said, "This was really the Martin home, but since I have lived in it for so long, friends called it the Becker home." Miss Amy graduated from Lindenwood College in 1908 and is listed as one of the charter members of the Lindenwood Boosters Club of the World. In 1916, the club raised $100 for a college loan fund, and by 1917, the club had plunged into a war work of all kinds in patriotic fervor. She seems to have maintained this attitude of charity, benevolence, and excellence for the rest of her life. Miss Amy M.L. Becker died in 1984 at age 94. She never married. In her will, she left the Martin Becker House to the St. Charles Historical Society. A short time later, it passed into private ownership, and in 1987, Miss Amy B's Tea Room opened for business. Miss Amy's legacy. According to reviews, Miss Amy B's Tea Room maintains the feel of a grandmother's tasteful parlor. According to proprietors, we feel that Amy's spirit is somehow a driving force here. The longtime staff members care for the house and listen to it closely. As a result, a number of unexplained occurrences have been reported here. At least one customer advises, take a look around. There may be things in the air that are definitely off the regular menu. Mysterious sights, sounds, and cold spots have been reported. People catch flashes in the corners of their eyes, hear distant voices, experience what seems to be something tumbling through the air. Some say spirits may still live in the furniture, silver, and woodwork. Amy's younger sister died when she was only 2.5 years old, which is honestly really, really sad. We do not know how she died, but she was loved and missed. Her classic Victorian portrait is displayed in the dining areas. Young Adelheid was a pretty child. It is hard to look at the painting and not be affected. The owners are sensitive to the child, and occasionally the portrait is moved from room to room, so she has a different view and can meet different people. More than one customer has been caught talking to the painting as if the child were still here. According to the co-owner, Sherry Pfander, Adelheid has called out from her portrait when left alone. A distant voice says, "Mommy, Mommy." I heard on two separate occasions, Sherry recalls. I was in the next room. It was very clear. I was a bit concerned. The young voice seemed to be lonely, perhaps a bit frightened. Maybe she does not want to be alone. A few years ago, country singer Crystal Gale visited Miss Amy B's. Crystal posed for a picture with the portrait of Adelheid. When the photo was viewed later, a strange mist seemed to be coming from the portrait. The mist was not visible when the picture was taken. Other people report similar events. Aside from the eerie Victorian darkness of the image, many people agree that something about the painting. Tom Sherry's husband has also experienced the unexplained. According to accounts, Miss Amy delighted in the radio and classical music. One night, while making late-night repairs in the cellar of the restaurant, Tom had the radio turned to a soft rock station. Suddenly, it switched to a classical station. He changed it back to soft rock and it switched to classical again. Tom then decided it was time to go home. Judy Howe, co-owner, has tales of unexplained reflections, a sight, sound, or feeling, something in the air. Judy says that while working late one night, she was in the back room downstairs and heard bumping. She went into another room and turned up the radio. After a few minutes, the radio went dead at that point. She turned out the lights and left. Staff, customers, cooks, and servers have special stories. More than once in the gift shop upstairs, a small pile of pecans has been found left on the counter. In life, some people say Amy was very fond of pecans. Perhaps she leaves them behind as a gift or just a simple kindness. One customer reported, "I just felt like Miss Amy is there watching. One time I was shopping upstairs and I left my cell phone sitting near a stack of books. I went to the next room, no one else was upstairs. I heard my phone ring. I went back to pick it up, and there's a few pecans sitting on it. Maybe Miss Amy was watching out for me." And this is the portrait of Adelheid, Miss Amy B's sister. Judy tells a story of another gift to a young bride. Amy never married, but she was still very social and knew how to entertain. As described by some, Miss Amy always provided divine cuisine. While preparing for a wedding reception, everyone was surprised to find that more than 50 spoons stacked neatly on the serving table near the wedding cake. All of the tables in the room had been arranged by the staff, and these spoons had been moved. No one knows how they got there, but the bride was touched. She said it was as if Miss Amy wanted to give me a gift. This was the only thing she could do. She continued, her eyes glistening. "I will always remember this for the rest of my life. Thank you, Miss Amy." Miss Amy's house continues to be a place of sights, sounds, feelings, and memories. The current owners, Sherry and Judy, maintain that Miss Amy's spirit is a driving force for excellence here, and at times it seems as if Miss Amy's spirit is still actively participating in day-to-day activities. With all events reported in the daylight, one can't help but wonder what happens at night when the spirit of Miss Amy and Adelheid are in the building alone and unobserved. And this right here is Miss Amy's house, is how it appears today. Now this one, I actually got paranormal evidence of right here, this one we're about to talk about, and that is the mother-in-law house. About 2 in the morning, then I was awakened by some sound in the house. I had ceased ear, I was wide awake, but it had left an impression behind it as through a window had gently closed. It was as if though a window had gently closed somewhere. I lay listening with all my ears. Suddenly, to my horror, there was a distinct sound of footsteps moving softly in the next room. I slipped out of my bed, all palpitating with fear, and peeped around the corner of my dressing room door. Arthur Conan Doyle, The Adventures of Miss Beryl Cornet of the Beryl Cornet. The mother-in-law house, located at 400 South Main, is probably the best-known haunting on Maine. It is the first double house built in St. Charles and may be the first double house west of the Mississippi. It was built in 1867 by Francis X. Kremer. Today we would call a double house a duplex. The front half and back half of the structure were almost identical, separated by a solid brick wall. The front side facing Main Street proudly displayed an ornate portico with arched double windows on the second floor. The main entrance was on the north side of the building, with only a strong door and a simple porch. In the beginning, both sides were furnished and finished to be exactly the same. After arriving in St. Charles in 1853, Francis X. Kremer leased a large flour mill and purchased most of the 400 block on Main Street. In addition, the actual mill was located here as a brick grain warehouse. And before we get any further, this is the mother-in-law house. It has since changed ownership and is no longer known as the mother-in-law's house. I forgot what the name of it is now, but it's not the mother-in-law house anymore. And it was actually featured on that TV show called Farmer Wants a Wife that I used to watch back when I was younger. It was like a one-time show, but according to city records, Kremer insured the structures against fire in 1870. However, in 1876, the business was destroyed by a tornado. He lost almost everything, but Mr. Kremer was not discouraged. He repaired the double house and remained in St. Charles until his death. Local lore indicates Mrs. Kremer was unhappy living far away from her mother. The double house was constructed so that they could live near each other but separately. Recently, the current owners paid $150 to obtain a copy of the abstract for the building, hoping to discover from record the mother's name. However, when the document was examined, they found that she had signed the document with an X. Witnessed by her daughter, mother's name is lost in history, but people in the area refer to her as Christina. There are a few stories about how Christina was abused, neglected, and mistreated, but there is no evidence to support these rumors. However, it seems that Christina was a lonely woman. Perhaps she was not happy in St. Charles and missed her own home. Perhaps as she aged, she just missed a social life. As time passed, even her daughter, living just a few feet away, visited less and less. That's sad. By most accounts, Christina was not healthy. No one expected her to live 22 more years. It was all she could do to drag herself out of bed and get dressed. She would sit in a chair all day, watching as the world passed by on Main Street. She died a very sad and lonely woman. She was not neglected so much as ignored. Today, the building is occupied by a fine restaurant. There is a pleasant dining room on the main floor and a very large meeting room downstairs. A few years ago, the owners redecorated, and the restaurant now enjoys a beautiful Victorian theme. Christina would have loved it. According to accounts from customers, servers, and other visitors, Christina may still be there. The popular table here is table number 1. It is located about where Christina spent most of her time, near the bed and chair. Visitors report that on occasion it is almost as if an additional person is seated at the table. who is glad to have visitors. The presence is not scary or spooky, but sometimes Christina will do her best to get people's attention. When diners sit down, Christina will do her best to get people's attention. Okay, when diners sit down, they will find silverware missing, and the servers will find it later sticking out from behind a photograph or up on a shelf. Sometimes the water glasses will be tipped over, and it will be okay. My something just popped up. It's like, hey, we're gonna restart your computer, and like, no. So sorry about that. In addition to private bookings, the room downstairs is used by a number of local organizations, including the local Sherlock Holmes discussion group. I didn't even know we had that. Some members report cold spots, strange noises, and flickers in the corners of the room. The group discusses Holmes' rational techniques and is not willing to call these events ghosts. In Arthur Conan Doyle's The Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes, it reflects, it seemed to me that a careful examination of the room might possibly reveal some traces of this mysterious individual. He knew my methods. There was not one of them which I did not apply to the inquiry, and it ended by my discovering traces, but very different ones from those which I had expected. According to a newspaper article published in 1988, the owners felt that the business at the mother-in-law house was uncharacteristically bad. Restaurant consultants advised them to change the place settings. Business consultants told them to change the check and accounting system. Tourism consultants suggested advertising in travel magazines. Finally, almost in desperation, they called a psychic. According to Donna, the owner, who I met, Donna, if you're somehow watching this, I miss your restaurant. You were such a really, really nice, loving lady. And especially for letting like my little team at the time back in high school do a little investigation of your shop during dining hours. That was really, really, really sweet of you, Donna. And yeah, I do miss your restaurant dearly. So if you're somehow seeing this, just wanted to let you know how great of a person you were, and I just really miss your restaurant, and we miss your kindness. So if you're somehow seeing this, thank you. None of the consultants' recommendations worked, and I had noticed strange things about the restaurant. Customers never stayed long when they were on the right side of the restaurant. They quickly ate, never laughed, and paid their bills quickly, as if they couldn't wait to get out. Customers who were seated at the left-hand side lingered, laughed, and seemed to enjoy themselves. Though I served the same food to all patrons, I would receive complaints from people who sat on the right. They would say the coffee is not good or the chicken amaretto was too salty. I have never eaten here myself, but it's a really, really nice building and all that. Many people believe that some hauntings occur when something happens in a location that scars the location. This scar acts as a key, causing the event to reoccur. Often when an injustice has occurred and exponentially strong will is involved, the spirit keeps trying to make a loud psychic noise. The person wanted attention while she was alive and continues to react to the situation that upset him. Christina had the entire right-hand side of the building to herself, but she felt isolated from her family who lived on the other side of a formidable brick wall. Apparently, the lonely feeling continues to haunt the right side of the building, even after the building was transformed into a restaurant. According to the psychic, that's why they don't laugh. The mother-in-law's negative imprints are still here. And this isn't saying that the mother-in-law is a bad person. This was just saying that she felt so alone in life that it's just kind of like manifesting and just kind of making the patrons kind of feel that energy as well. So the mother-in-law herself was not a bad person. It was just kind of the energy that she was putting out that was making the customers feel the way that they did. Donna followed the advice of the psychic, who believed Christina's spirit had to be appeased, and told the owner to start putting more flowers on the right side of the restaurant and tell mother-in-law you love her every day. Still, Donna says she is caught between two value systems: science with proven pragmatic systems and traditional spiritualism where anything is possible but not verifiable. Donna says she finds paranormal phenomena fascinating, but wishes it would be studied more like a science. She continues, I don't know if there is a ghost in the restaurant. I do believe we have strong negative imprints, but not necessarily the mother-in-law's ghost. Customers get very disappointed when I say that they want ghosts. The research and reports continue. More than one paranormal group has certified the location as haunted, including the Mid-America Paranormal Society and the Paranormal Task Force. Both of these groups are strongly based in scientific evaluation of paranormal locations. And both report a number of anomalies that could be ghosts? I thought I heard something, I don't know. In addition, there's a local ghost tour that passes the site 8 or 12 times every month. The tour participants have collected a large number of photos with unexplained lights, shadows, and misty smudges. The director of the Mid-America Paranormal Society says, "We have not performed a full investigation of the mother-in-law house, but casual observations indicate that some kind of activity is here. We gathered significant photos and on several occasions very high electromagnetic energy readings. I cannot say yes, there is a ghost here, but there is definitely something unexplained. We need more investigation." There's an apartment above the restaurant, and staff members sometimes hear strange things, and that is where my photo was actually taken at. I took it from the outside window. I took it from outside, aimed it up at the window, and I got that woman looking out at the street and the river. There was someone pacing upstairs in the vacant apartment. Everybody heard it. It sounded like a person going from room to room. One guy even heard someone on the stairs, and there was no one there. I have been around ghost stories all my life, but this is too close. This is real. While the ambience of the building can never be called creepy, the encounters with Christina continue. Lights mysteriously turn on or off. Items are misplaced or just go missing completely. Objects move around the buildings after hours. She is not mean, said one employee. She just wants us to notice her. Everyone seems to agree that the entity at the mother-in-law house is peaceful and not something to fear. Today, business at the restaurant is good, and everyone coexists with Christina. Every night when the staff members leave, everyone says, "Good night, Christina, we love you." It started out pretty much as a joke but with the staff, but now it's taken pretty seriously. As a result, Christina is not experienced as often these days. Her spirit still lingers, but she may almost be content. In a strange twist, many people find this new situation to be sad. Perhaps after all these years, all Christina wanted was a bit of attention. "You will now apply my precept," he said, shaking his head. "How often have I said to you that when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth." Arthur Conan Doyle, The Sign of the Four. All right, so we still have time. So I'm going to probably read one more chapter, and then I'm thinking after that, you may call it, because that'll be a good stopping point, and then we'll be able to finish this up next time. Or I can read 2 more chapters just to get us to like page, let me see. Yeah, we'll be on page 98 and then when we stop, so just 18 more pages left, 2 chapters. We'll be on page 99 when we start up again. And then, yeah, we'll finish this book up next time after that then. So we'll have one more reading of this, so we'll have one more stream with this book. Very nice. The first state capital. Yep, St. Charles, Missouri's first state capital. Before Missouri was granted statehood, various locations in St. Louis served as the seat of government for territorial affairs. As statehood became a certainty, the search began for a site to use as a permanent seat of government. Ultimately, an undeveloped tract of land located in the center of the state overlooking the Missouri River was chosen to become the city of Jefferson, Missouri's permanent capital. However, until the new Capitol building could be constructed, the state's first legislators needed a place to meet. 9 cities competed for the honor of hosting the state's temporary seat of government. One of these cities was St. Charles, and it was described in the proposal as a growing trade center located on the Missouri River, with easy access to the most rapidly growing areas in the state via the river or Boonslick Road. Boonslick Road is still here today. The citizens of St. Charles pledged that if their city were chosen as the temporary capital, they would furnish free meeting space for the legislators. On November 25th, 1820, Governor Alexander McNair signed a bill making St. Charles the first state capital in Missouri. The state's first legislators met in St. Charles for the first time on June 4th, 1821. Excuse me. City fathers established a town board of trustees and guaranteed that the site would provide a seat of government free of expense to the state. The board agreed to pay Rulof Peck $100 a year for the use of the second floor of 2 newly constructed adjoining federal-style brick buildings. Excuse me. Large arches were cut in the wall of the second floor to create the Great Assembly Hall. And this is the restored building of the Capitol building. Oh no, I hated algebra. I was horrible at that myself. I'm legit horrible at math. Okay, that's gonna be a yo-yo. Yo-yo. Let me see. I've just been getting weird shit on the YOLO Ask all day, so. What now? I'm kind of getting a little headache, honestly, but I'll finish. This structure was built in let me see, where was I? To create the Great Assembly Hall. The structure was built in 1818, is actually 3 buildings under one sailback roof. 2 buildings on the south end with the arch alleyway leading to the ferry were owned by Rulof and Charles Peck. Yeah, no, I fucking hate math. The first floor was used as the residence and store. The second floor served as the Great Assembly Hall from 1821 to 1826. A third building on the north end was the home of the carpenter Chauncey Shepherd. The rooms on the second level were used for the governor's office and committee rooms. Missouri legislators met here from June 4th, 1821 through October 1st, 1826. Missouri's first legislators, some of them frontiersmen and others of the gentry, met to undertake the task of reorganizing Missouri's territorial government into a progressive state system. Legislators arrived on horseback in elegant carriages and on foot. They wore fur coats, coonskin caps, and leather moccasins. According to one account, Governor McNair was often attired in a beaver hat with a frock coat. Local residents and tavern keepers were offered room and board to state officials at a rate of $2.50 per week. Well, $2.50. I mean, however, even this modest aid was beyond the means of many of the members. The legislators were possessed with good appetites, and some local citizens suffered significant losses under this arrangement. Heated debates over the states' rights and slavery filled the rooms of the temporary Capitol chambers. 4 Missouri governors ran the state's affairs from here until the new capital in Jeff City was ready. After the capital was moved to Jeff City, it was business as usual in the Peck Brothers building. However, about 1900, the buildings and neighborhood around the first state capitol began to slowly decay. The Peck brothers essentially disappeared from the public records, and a number of other operations were located here, including what may have been a paint store and several other retail businesses. Windows were broken, the roof leaked, and the building was almost unusable. In 1960, the state of Missouri bought the building and started a restoration project that lasted 10 years. Excuse me. The governor at the time, James T. Blair, was prompted to make these renovations by concerned citizens of St. Charles who recognized the value of historical buildings. This Capitol building is currently among the smallest state parks in Missouri, is officially listed as being only 0.66 acres in size. For college, Sabrina, or for high school? The second floor has been restored to reflect how the rooms used by the new government would have looked in 1821-26. The Peck Brothers dry goods and hardware store has been refurbished and re-outfitted. Inside you will find that a typical store in the 1820s would have had on hand, including cloth, dishes, flour, tobacco, cooking appliances, candles, tools, and traps. Stores in this area typically use a barter system, with fur pelts being the most frequent form of payment. Many of the common types of fur pelts used as barter are on display. The family residence of Rudolph Peck also has been restored. Adjacent to the historic site building is the Interpretive Center. Admission is free, and it offers 2 floors of exhibition and orientation show for a nominal fee. Visitors can take a guided tour through the actual restored and furnished rooms where the Missouri state government was created and first practiced. During restoration, the foundations for several outbuildings were uncovered. 2 wells, or perhaps cisterns, were found along with 2 utility buildings. It is believed that the smaller of the utility buildings was used for food storage, taking advantage of the reduced temperatures coming from the well, but the purpose of the second larger building is unknown. It appears as if the building was intentionally destroyed along with any records pertaining to it. These ruins were examined and excavated a few years ago. Speculation includes a summer kitchen, servants' quarters, that is to say slaves' quarters, which is sad, or storage. It is hard to say. Some say the larger building was a holding cell for runaway slaves. During the Civil War, Missouri was cut in half. As part of the Missouri Compromise, the top half of the state was free and the bottom half was slave. If you were in St. Charles, you were a slave. If you could make it across the river to St. Louis County, you were free. After the Emancipation Proclamation, outbuildings like the one behind the Capitol building became an embarrassment all over the county. It was not unusual for buildings of this type to be destroyed and their very existence to be denied. Evidence to support or deny this position cannot be found. There are no newspaper accounts, deeds, building records, or personal accounts. The only evidence is that some form of personal stories passed down through the years. Odds are this building was a holding cell of some type. Even if it was not a holding cell for slaves, it is likely that more than one person died while incarcerated here. A number of ghostly events have been reported and recorded here. Just after sunset, looking down on the west corridor, one can glimpse the edges of the ruins. On occasion, an unexplained mist will be visible just inside the wall of the holding cell. On several occasions, the distinct outline of a person can be seen. An energy phenomenon, also called orbs, frequently appear. Unfortunately, many of these events have natural explanations. I got you, Sabrina. The humidity from the grass, summer insects, and airborne debris can account for many of the mysterious forms. However, the most interesting objects seem to cluster around the holding cell. These events have high credibility. A short time ago, some very interesting bright red objects appeared in a photograph. The objects hovered in the cell, moving slightly in almost random patterns, but staying inside as if confined. However, when the image was examined closely, it turned out to be a happy rabbit family munching away on fresh grass as the light from the street reflected in their eyes. Today, the area behind the Restore building has a quiet, things put to rest feeling. But there's no shortage of violent frontier stories in the town. Local tradition holds that more than one duel occurred while on the parade grounds behind the Capitol. Keep in mind that the area between the building and the river was the front of the building in 1820. It was public meeting space and was used for many things. Dueling was never legal in St. Charles, but often the authorities looked the other way. There are several accounts of assaults or incidents of self-defense reported here. However, it is unlikely that an assault would be carried out with a sword, or that after an incident or self-defense, a set of match pistols would be confiscated. You may ask, why would someone choose this public place for a duel? It was possible to maintain plausibility, deniability, but officer, we were not dueling. If we were dueling, would we choose this public place? It was self-defense. In the end, the participant with the strongest political ties would be charged with a lesser crime, and the entire incident would be forgotten. The cholera epidemic. Even a casual visitor to some of the area graveyards will notice many stones dating list date died 1849. The 1849 dates are all out of proportion to those other years because this is the year when the area had a severe epidemic of cholera. In 1849 alone, about 1/10 of the area population died from the disease. According to the reports in the Western Journal, 8,445 people that year died, including in the St. Louis area, with 4,285 cemetery records for many of the victims do not exist. The Missouri Republican usually reported 5 or 6 deaths a week, and in July of 1849, reported deaths numbered about almost 150. By some accounts, this number was only about 5% of the actual deaths. This disease had been known in India for a long time. About 1800, it began to move westward along the trade routes and soon spread throughout Europe. Before long, 1 million more lives were lost. Soon, the disease appeared in several points along the routes to New Orleans. And it quickly spread up the water routes along the Mississippi. The disease seemed to prefer younger victims. One list from St. Louis shows the average death to be around 30 years old. Doctors did not know the method by which the disease was spread, and they did not have effective treatments. The most widely accepted explanation was that miasma, or vapors from rotting vegetation. Many remedies were offered, including opium, castor oil, calomel, I don't know what calomel is, powdered mustard seed, brandy, and tea made from snake root. A number of patient medicines were available, and extraordinary claims were made. Wells' cholera-specific Dr. James Carminative balsam, Sun's painkiller, and Gould's cholera-specific were made available. One of the most sensational remedies from Southern Illinois came from Southern Illinois and was called the Egyptian anodyne. It claimed to be based on a formula recorded in hieroglyphics on a papyrus scroll found beneath the head of an Egyptian king buried 5,000 years earlier. People were desperate and would try anything. Once contracted, the disease killed quickly. Death often occurred within 4 to 5 hours. One doctor addressing a group of medical students said, "The first symptom of cholera is death." Local undertakers were overwhelmed. There simply was not enough burial space in the area. The heat of summer and the large number of bodies created a desperate situation. By some accounts, there may have been a mass grave near the grounds of the Capitol building, just to the west in what is now Riverfront Park, in an unused area on the banks of the Missouri River. A large shallow trench was dug, and the bodies of the slaves, poor farmers, and unidentified travelers were dumped here and forgotten. And this is the foundation where these were the foundations that were uncovered for renovations by the state capitol. The story of the mass grave cannot be confirmed. There are no official records of the area, and has been flooded many times since then. Any bodies have long been since washed away. There's an area in the park that remains unused. More than one sensitive person has reported an uncomfortable atmosphere in the area of the alleged gravesite. By all accounts, there were more bodies than were listed in official records. They had to have been put somewhere. One local resident reports, "I hate this spot. I was down here for a picnic a few months ago, and our frisbee flew over there. I went to get it over there, and I got sick to my stomach. I couldn't move. I doubled over and fell down. My boyfriend ran over and helped me up. As soon as I got away from that spot, I was okay. I've always been sensitive. I can't go to cemeteries and stuff like that. This really hits me hard. There's something over there. I don't know what." Unofficial ghosts. Officially, state park officials do not tell ghost stories. Unofficially, rangers here have reported a number of strange events. In addition to the standard knocks, bangs, creaks found in older buildings, people report voices, footsteps, and music. During tours of the building, where was I? People often on the first floor hear people moving about in the empty council chambers above. On occasion, it seems that heated debates are taking place in the chambers, but no one is visible in this day. Oh wait, no, in stay, the Capitol building was used as a civic meeting place. Sometimes ghostly echoes of what could be frontier concerts are heard, as if from a great distance. People report that cold spots and feathery touches, and on occasion furniture will be moved. Several years ago, a film crew was here making a documentary. More than one person on the crew said that they were uncomfortable while inside the building. They decided to set up a camera and let it run all night while the building was empty. They checked on the equipment in the morning and found that the camera tripod had been knocked over and the film torn from the camera. Any images or events that may have been captured during the night were lost. Today, the park has a quiet, laid-back feel. The only activity here is from the tours and visitors to the interpretive center. The grounds are closed up and closed. The grounds are closed up and closed off at night. Even late-night visitors to this part of Main Street treat the building with quiet respect. One visitor shared the following story. "Some people hear things, others see things. Not me, but I did feel something I can't explain. I was standing outside near the entrance and I felt a hand on my shoulder. The fingers grasped me. I turned around to see who it was. There was no one there. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and to this day I don't know who or what it was, but it was there. It was very real." Whew. Hmm. Whew. Do you really think I could do narrations, Ryan? Hmm. I may have to do that at some point. I really could, honestly. You know, I may test it out. That would be a good new series to start, honestly. I could really test that out. So I'm just going to take like a quick 5-minute break from the story, to kind of let my voice rest for a minute because it's starting to hurt because I've been reading for so long. But yeah, no, I could definitely do some narrations. I do think that would be cool. And if you guys really think I can do it, I'll definitely give it a shot. Um, so for narrations and everything, I know like how a bunch of different YouTubers have it set up and everything. Like they have like the little picture and everything on the screen, and they just kind of like read and everything. But I don't know how I could do that via OBS. I mean, I kind of have an idea, but I'm not 100% sure. So if anybody would like to help me, I don't know, possibly help me to get that to work, and if anybody has any stories that you could submit. I like to read encounters, so yeah, I could definitely do that. If any of you guys have any stories that you want to send me, like true encounter stories and whatnot, for this, I kind of want to do this now. This sounds actually really fun. Just submit it to me via my social media. I'd say probably my email would be the best place to send me a story that I can read. Also, if anybody out there is good at art and would actually want to make like thumbnails and like just some art for the stories and everything, that would be fucking amazing. I would give you guys full credit and whatnot, but I think that would be really cool, I could probably do that. Oh, wait, really? Oh, dude, fucking send me a link for that shit when that's released or when you're live, and I'll definitely check that out. That sounds awesome. But yeah, no, I would love to do some narrations though, but now that you point that out, that sounds awesome. Hold on. I'm going to take a very quick break from the story that we're reading. I'm just going to just pull up like a creepypasta. I'm just going to kind of like read it in my best narrator voice, I guess. This is the one that I wanted to find. There we go. Alright, I'm going to try reading this in my best narrator voice. You guys can tell me if it's good or not. During the summer of 2003, events in the northeastern United States involving a strange human-like creature sparked brief local media interest before an apartment blackout was enacted. Little or no information was left intact, as most online and written accounts of the creature were mysteriously destroyed. Primarily focused in rural New York State, self-proclaimed witnesses told stories of their encounters with a creature of unknown origin. Emotions ranged from extremely traumatic levels of fright to discomfort to an almost childlike sense of playfulness and curiosity. While their published versions are no longer on record, the memories remain powerful. Several of the involved parties began looking for answers that year. In early 2006, the collaboration had accumulated nearly 24 documents dating between the 12th century and present day, spanning 4 continents. In almost all cases, the stories were identical. I've been in contact with a number of this group and was able to get some excerpts from their upcoming book, The Rake, A Suicide Note, 1964. As I prepare to take my life, I feel it's necessary to to assuage any guilt or pain I have introduced through this act. It is not the fault of anyone other than him. For once I awoke and felt his presence, and once I awoke and saw his form. Once again I awoke and heard his voice and looked into his eyes. I cannot sleep without fear of what I might next awake to experience. I cannot ever wake. Goodbye. Found in the same wooden box were 2 empty envelopes addressed to William and Rose and 1 loose personal letter with no envelope. Dearest Linny, I have prayed for you. He spoke your name. A journal entry translated from Spanish in 1880. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I have experienced the greatest terror. I see his eyes when I close mine. They are hollow, black. They saw me and pierced me. His wet hand, I will not sleep. His voice, unintelligible text. A Mariner's Log, 1691. He came to me in my sleep. From the foot of my bed I felt a sensation. He took everything. We must return to England. We shall not return here again. At the request of the rake. 3 years ago, I had just returned from a trip to Niagara Falls with my family for the 4th of July. We were all very exhausted after a long day of driving, so my husband and I put the kids right to bed and called it a night. At about 4 a.m., I woke up thinking my husband had gotten up to use the restroom. I used the movement to steal back the sheets, only to wake him in the process. I apologized and told him I thought he got out of bed. When he turned to face me, he gasped and pulled his feet from the end of the bed so quickly his knee almost knocked me out of the bed. He then grabbed me and said nothing. After adjusting to the dark for half a second, I was able to see what caused the strange reaction. At the foot of the bed, sitting facing away from us, there was what appeared to be a naked man or large hairless dog of some kind. Its body position was disturbing and unnatural, as if it had been hit by a car or something. For some reason, I was not instantly frightened by it, but more concerned as to its condition. At this point, I was somewhat under the assumption that we were supposed to help him. My husband was peering over his arm and knee, tucked into the fetal position, occasionally glancing at me before returning to the creature. In a flurry of motion, the creature scrambled around the side of the bed and then crawled quickly in a flailing sort of motion right along the bed until it was less than a foot from my husband's face. The creature, completely silent for about 30 seconds, or probably closer to 5, it just seemed like a while, just looking at my husband. The creature then placed its hand on his knee and ran into the hallway leading to the kids' rooms. I screamed and ran for the light switch, planning to stop him before he hurt my children. When he got to the hallway, the light from the bedroom was close enough to see it crouching and hunched over about 20 feet away. He turned around and looked directly at me. Covered in blood, I flipped the switch on the wall and saw my daughter, Clara. The creature ran down the stairs while my husband and I rushed to help our daughter. She was badly injured and spoke only once more in her short life. She said, "He is the rake." My husband drove his car into the lake that night while rushing our daughter to the hospital. He did not survive. Being a small town, news got around pretty quickly. The police were helpful at first, and the local newspaper took a lot of interest as well. However, the story was never published, and the local television news never followed up either. For several months, my son Justin and I stayed in a hotel near my parents' house. After we decided to return home, I began looking for answers myself. I eventually located a man in the town over who had a similar story. We got in contact and began talking about our experiences. He knew of 2 other people in New York who had seen the rake and who had seen the creature who we now refer to as the rake. It took the 4 of us about 2 solid years of hunting on the internet and writing letters to come up with a small collection of what we believe to be accounts of the rake. None of them gave any details, history, or follow-up. One journal had an entry involving the creature in its first 3 pages and never mentioned it again. A ship's log explained nothing of the encounter, saying that they were told to leave by the rake. That was the last entry in the log. There were, however, many instances where the creature's visit was one of a series of visits with the same person. Multiple people also mentioned being spoken to, my daughter included. This led us to wonder if the rake had visited any of us before our last encounter. I set up a digital recorder near my bed and left it running all night. Every night for 2 weeks, I would tediously scan through the sound of me rolling around in my bed each day I woke up. By the end of the second week, I was quite used to the occasional sound of sleep while blurring through the recording at 8 times the normal speed. This still took almost an hour every day. On the first day of the third week, I thought I heard something different. What I found was a shrill voice. It was the rake. I can't listen to it long enough to even begin to transcribe it. I haven't let anyone listen to it yet. All I know is that I've heard it before. And I now believe that it spoke when it was sitting in front of my husband. I don't remember hearing anything at the time, but for some reason, the voice in my recorder immediately brings me back to that moment. The thoughts that must have gone through my daughter's head make me very upset. I've not seen the rake since he ruined my life, but I know that he has been in my room while I slept. I know and fear that one night I'll wake up to see him staring at me. Was that good? Was that good though? I hope that was good at least. Okay, hold on. Or I could read it like this. St. Charles is the second oldest city in Missouri and one of the oldest cities in the United States. For most of its history, it could have been featured in any bad Western movie with a legacy of street shootings and lynch mobs. When you sit on the banks of the Missouri River, it does not take much of an imagination to see, feel, and perhaps even smell the ghosts lingering there. The scoundrels, the criminals, and the victims of traumatic events are the spirits that cannot or will not rest. Join Michael Henry for some of their stories as he keeps vigil with representatives of the city's restless past. From the lost dogs of the Lewis and Clark expedition to the mysterious lady in white. St. Charles is the second oldest city in Missouri, and is one of the oldest cities in the United States. For most of its history, it could have been featured in any bad Western movie. I don't know. I feel like the first one I did was the best, though. I love Chills, but the voice he does is a little bit over the top, but I love him. He's a good guy. Number 15, Burger King foot lettuce. Yeah, no, I like the rate creepypasta. Honestly, if you really, really analyze like some of the old creepypasta, like Jeff the Killer, for example, Jeff the Killer is honestly not good. Like, it's very, very poorly written. If you really read about it, like I watched this whole video about it, and I never really thought about it. So I'm like, oh my god, that story was horribly written. But at the time, it was scary, though. All right, let's read one more chapter of this book, guys, and then I'll call it a night. And then I might take narration suggestions. I don't know. The Ghosts of Lindenwood University. In 1821, George Champlin Sibley, along with his 16-year-old wife, Mary Easton Sibley, were stationed at Fort Sibley, more properly known as Fort Osage, to promote peace, friendship, and intercourse with the Osage at Fort Osage. Intercourse with the Osage tribes to afford them every instance in their power and to protect them from insults and injuries of the other tribes of Indians. I don't know how good my Chills voice is, though, honestly. I can do, like, other really nice voice impressions that are pretty spot on, but I don't think my Chills one is that great, personally. Number 15, Burger King foot lettuce. I don't think it's that good, personally. And I know Chills is always a good sport about the people talking about his voice and stuff. There was this one video I saw somebody did, like, made fun of Chills and everything, and they got to, like, this one part, and it was like George Bush when the shoe got thrown at his head and he dodged it. He was like, "Some say that being a senior citizen could be one of the best times of your life, but this happened to this poor elderly man. As you can see, this elderly gentleman won bingo and was nearly assaulted by a shoe flying past his head." It was funny as shit. I'll have to link the video or something. Fort Osage to promote peace, friendship, and the proud tribes of the Indians. Okay, there we go. They spent several uneventful years living a comfortable frontier life while still enjoying many of the comforts of a civilized life. They were well supplied and well fed, and Mary even held piano concerts for the mountain men and traders visiting the fort. In 1816, she even played host to Daniel Boone. Why did I say co-host? It wasn't like she was hosting a TV show or something. He arrived at the fort in April and spent 2 weeks there. However, in 1826, George co-signed a note for $20,000. By some accounts, his partner defaulted and disappeared and left them with next to nothing. Sibley took possession of his former partner's assets, which consisted of little more than 120 acres in St. Charles. When the Sibleys left Fort Osage, Mary was 28 and George was 46 years old. They unloaded their meager belongings onto a riverboat, came to St. Charles, and moved into a house at 230 North Main. Mary's father lived at 201 South Main, and a short walk enabled Mary to see her father every day, a practice she kept for the rest of his life. Shortly after visiting in St. Charles, the Sibleys went out to inspect their property. The grounds were so overgrown that they would have to clear away enough thickets in order to obtain a view of the land. The major and his wife stood on the summit of the hill, covered with a large stand of beautiful linden trees, about 150 feet above the Missouri River. They resolved to lay the foundation of a school for young ladies. In 1827, a log cabin was erected, and the Lindenwood School for Girls opened its door. And this was the original Lindenwood building right here. The generous grounds, groves, and gardens provided ample space for reading, recreation, and retrospection. On July 4th, 1857, the cornerstone was laid for a proper building, 3 stories high, 73 feet long, and 48 feet deep. Sibley Hall, the brick building we see today, was built over the original log cabin and was the only building on campus until Ayers Hall was constructed in 1908. Today, Sibley's Hall is used as a residence hall and is the oldest building at Lindenwood. Many young ladies were educated under this roof and have been sent out to fulfill honorable positions in society. In 1833, Mary wrote in her journal, "I commenced this spring the little school I had last year consisting of 7 or 8 young girls. On the plan I have thought that necessary for the good of the rising generation. That is, that women, instead of being raised helpless and dependent beings, should be taught the habit of industry and usefulness." Life was hard in St. Charles in the 19th century. In his journal, George Sibley recorded deaths from cholera, yellow fever, miscarriages, stabbings, suicides, and brain fever, among others. He wrote of the tragedy of the Alderson family. Benjamin Amos Alderson lost his wife in 1847 and then buried his daughter and her infant sister next to his wife on March 23, 1848. 4 days later, his 4-year-old son George died of scarlet fever, followed on April 4th by Martha, the eldest, being 8 years old. She was buried next to her sister, quietly and silently, very few people being present. Then on Sunday, April 9th, 1848, his third daughter, Mary, died and was interred just after sunset. George Sibley observed, "Thus has Mr. Alderson been bereaved of his wife and 5 children within 6 months." So his wife and all of his children died within 6 months. By 1853, Lindenwood was a full-fledged women's college. Mary continued to be at the school every day, and to say that she could touched the lives of her students would be an understatement. Mary regulated all of her students' waking hours and study and recreation. When lessons were completed, she often read to them or entertained them on her piano with a fife and drum attachment. Often she would sit down with them in the common room and embroider. She looked upon women as the nobler sex, and as a result, in addition to literature, grammar, writing, spelling, and other subjects, Lindenwood's program included instruction in intellectual, moral, and domestic issues. At Fort Osage and later in St. Charles, Mary Sibley frequently traveled by horseback rather than in a carriage. She made almost daily trips to town, get the mail, if nothing else. According to one historian, she rode a white horse, very gentle, with a young servant perched behind to open gates. Her distinctive appearance was well known all over campus and all over town. In 1851, Sibley became a semi-invalid, but he continued to work on improvement projects in St. Charles. He also took on almost a full-time job of establishing Lindenwood as a premier college for women. In later life, he was mostly bedridden, but continued to read and wrote on current topics for several newspapers. He died at age 81 on January 31st, 1863. He was buried in the graveyard laid out on the Lindenwood campus. After George's death, Mary attempted to carry on. She refused to wear black, saying she did not want to upset the girls. However, everyone knew she was hiding a deep hurt. Without heeding anyone's advice, she sold her house in 1864 and moved to a house she built in Lafayette Park in St. Louis. She continued to travel and sometimes visited her sister in New York. She made several trips to Europe and visited many major cities in the United States. She was by all accounts a very pretty old lady and could often be seen hobbling along with her cane in the park at Lafayette Square. Mary had friends and relatives in St. Louis, but she was not happy away from Lindenwood. It also appears she was a poor manager of money and was lost without George. In the late 1860s, she was compelled to sell her home in St. Louis and move back to St. Charles. She purchased a small cottage near the college. She was pleased to discover that in her absence the girls had not forgotten her. In her late years, she maintained her vivaciousness, vitality, and physical strength, but on Thursday, June 20th, 1878, she died quietly in her sleep. She was 78 years old and was buried in the plot beside her husband, her sister-in-law, her mother-in-law, and little Willie, the son of the first president of Lindenwood. And this is the Sibley family graveyard located on the campus of Lindenwood University. There we go. Wait, there we go. Aunt Mary today. Today, Lindenwood University has more than 500 acres and offers more than 120 undergraduate and graduate programs to more than 14,500 students each year. There are many stories about ghostly encounters in many locations before her death. Mary Sibley promised her students that she would always be with them and watch over them. Signs of her ghost, along with other paranormal and poltergeist activities, seem to indicate Mary Sibley, and perhaps others, has actually stayed behind. Mary Sibley did not dwell on the fact that she was mortal. Mary did not plan ahead because she had so many short-term goals to accomplish. She never thought she was going to die, and as a result, many of her goals were not met. It is believed that she still inhabits the campus, attempting to complete some of these projects, and of course, keeping an eye on her beloved students. The legend of Mary Sibley's ghost began shortly after her death, according to a historical essay. Students began to experience unexplained phenomenon as early as 1879. Locked doors would be found standing open. Footsteps would sound in the night, echoing down the empty halls. Students reported seeing Sibley materialize on the main staircase, and as she descended the stairs, she would fade away. With such a long history and so many students over the years, everyone in the area seems to know someone with a personal experience on Lindenwood campus. In Sibley Hall, the ghostly activity seems to be more focused on the third floor. Students report seeing blue orbs and misty figures. Others claim to wake in the middle of the night and find their mattresses floating in the air. Past residents claim that furniture moves, pictures turn, and voices emanate from vacant rooms. Parents tell of daughters who stay at home rather than in their dorm rooms because they feel a presence when no one else is there. Other students report electrical items turning themselves on, and window shades that suddenly fly open. For a time, part of Sibley Hall was closed off and boarded up. There are no renovations going on, no repairs being made. This part of the third floor is where the most ghost activity has been reported. According to some reports, this area was secretly, efficiently, and undetectably sealed up. Official records related to the construction have not been located. There is no evidence of a boarded secret area at this time. We just have a few more pages left, guys. Mary's famous piano is still on campus. Will sometimes play with no one at the keyboard. Occasionally the sound of a fife and drum will be heard, accompanying the mysterious keyboard musician, which, if you remember what I read earlier, that's what Mary played. People have been saved by a ghostly hand, preventing a fall down the stairs. Others have received a sharp swat in the behind if they come late or misbehave in some fashion. Sibley Hall includes a chapel, and the chapel is indeed a little scary at night, with the lights out. Residents say the organ also plays in the middle of the night and can be heard throughout the building in the dark hours of the night. On occasion, incoming freshmen wake up in the middle of the night and claim they can't sleep in their rooms. They flee to the lounge, huddle together, and sleep on the couches. However, most people believe that the lounge is the worst place to sleep. Mary's picture is above the fireplace, the piano is there, and the room seems to be always cold. Perhaps in spite of the spooky environment, Mary is there to comfort the homesick newcomers. One summer between terms, Sibley Hall was undergoing renovations. No one was in the building except the workmen, and all the doors were kept locked. One day, the workers heard a girl's voice and giggles on the third floor. There were loud sounds like drawers being opened and closed, and the sound of furniture being dragged across the floor. They simply assumed that several young ladies were upstairs doing some work of their own and were not concerned. At quitting time, several of the men went upstairs to check the doors to make sure the young ladies could get out. They climbed up the steps and found the upper floors were completely vacant. No one was there. No one had been there for a long time. The setting sun filtered through the unwashed windows, and the dust on the floor was undisturbed, but everything was deathly silent. Campus legend states that Mary Sibley returns to the school every Halloween night. Some say she rides across campus on her white horse, a small boy perched behind her. Others claim she simply rises from her grave and walks in Sibley Hall. According to much-told story, several years ago, a student decided to dress up in old-fashioned clothes like Mary Sibley and frighten the other girls. She went to the lounge to play Mary's piano and saw another girl dressed as Mary Sibley already there. She thought it was another student trying to play the same joke, but then the mysterious girl lifted her head. The student realized she was face-to-face with the real Mary Sibley. The girl screamed and fainted. Her Halloween prank was interrupted by the real thing. Ugh, almost choked myself with that, or just... Lindenwood's current students continue to share stories. Some freshmen admit that they were scared at first, but at this time they realized there was nothing to fear. One student related, "I was walking out the door late for class and I felt something jab me in my back, but when I turned around, no one was there, and I ran and made it to class on time." Others report seeing a woman with black hair and black clothes sitting on the hallway couch, reading a book. It is said that Sibley's ghost greets every incoming freshman on the Sibley Hall staircase. One Sibley Hall resident, who did not want to be identified, told a friend who lived in the dorm her friend's mother had just died and she was going through rough times. She was upstairs in her dorm, crying on her bed, when she felt someone sit beside her. She could not see anyone, but she felt as if Miss Sibley were doing her best to provide some comfort. Another student related, I lived on the second floor last year. I heard footsteps and drawers slamming all the time in the room above me. One night I went upstairs to tell the girls to be a little quieter. The girl that lived there said she had just gotten out of the shower and it couldn't have been her. When confronted with rumors of the most famous ghosts, Lindenwood administrators merely chuckle and will not comment. However, in one case, when a nervous incoming student asked about the ghost, the school president quietly chuckled but did not deny the stories or existence. It appears as if Mary Sibley ignores the official position. She continues to hang around and take care of her school and students. She is not alone. Mary may not be the only ghost at Lindenwood. There has been more than one suicide on campus, at least one gruesome murder during World War I. A girl living in Sibley received a telegram. Her fiancé fighting overseas had been killed. She went to the attic and hanged herself. Students on the third floor claiming to hear creaky noises from the attic sound similar to ropes swinging from a rafter. Many students living there have pledged that they will never set foot near the attic, but a few have. They say it's bitter cold at the foot of the steps. On occasion, the attic door, though unlocked, will not open. It seems that the students get this story tangled up with that of Mary's death. Many students tell the stories as if Mary committed suicide by hanging. But Mary died quietly in her sleep, alone in her bed. However, that does not seem to stop Mary from visiting on occasion. The campus theater, as well as the library, is said to have its fair share of ghosts. Just prior to a recent performance, one of the actors came backstage shaking in fear. He had turned to say "excuse me" to a man standing in the stage exit wings. He turned to realize he was alone on stage. On another occasion, a technician was walking toward the lighting and control area. When she got to the top of the stage ramp, she suddenly jerked and jumped out of the way as if she were trying to avoid hitting someone. Later, when asked about the incident, she replied that she was getting out of the way of the man in a dark suit and hat. She assumed it was one of the costume actors, but none of the actors were in the building at that time. Like many theater ghosts, no one knows who he is, or was, but he continues to visit usually at the start of a new production. Perhaps he was a director or teacher, and like Mary Sibley, continues to watch over his students. Strange myths have been reported like nebulous actors on the stage, and late-night chills follow people around like an aggressive usher. After the applause fades and the curtain falls and the audience returns to the real world, theaters become dark and silent places, but the facilities here, like many others, are not always completely empty. The Butler Library is only a few hundred feet from Sibley Hall, and there are ghosts reported here. So far, no specific history or person has been identified, but the inside of the building is dramatic, and the floors in the main building are unusual. The floors are translucent fiberglass. They are very strong, but you can easily see people walking around above. It is easy to understand with this unusual design why ghost stories are inevitable. The Butler Library is open on June 3rd, 1929. My mouse fell. Sorry. The estimated price to construct the building was $200,000. In 1968, new wings were added to the east and west ends of the 3 floors of the building. Excuse me. Thousands of researchers have spent thousands of hours here. It is possible that a few of them have taken up eternal residence. Some say the ghost is a former librarian, but there is no history to support this view. One student reports, "I spend a lot of time in Butler doing research, and sometimes I get this feeling as if someone is nearby. I'm sure it is a woman, and it's as if she knows I only want to do the best for the library. I feel she wants me to know that she is present, but there's a mutual respect for her space. Sometimes the hair on my neck prickles, and she seems to follow me around. When I leave, I believe she always walks me out safely as if saying goodnight and come back. I've never felt threatened, and she doesn't speak, but I do feel she's trying to communicate. She isn't troubled, she just cares." Butler Library does not have the history of Sibley Hall or other older parts of Lindenwood, but the stories cannot be ignored. In one case, a column of gray smoke was reported. At first I thought it was a sump pump. At first I thought The sump pump was on fire, but the problem was that the vapor did not ascend upwards, spread like the smoke of a fire. It just hovered there in one spot and then vanished. Lindenwood has been identified as one of the most haunted universities in the United States. Perhaps the location in the haunted city of St. Charles explains at least part of the activity. Many thousands of people have passed through the ivy-covered gates, and as time passes, more stories will no doubt emerge. And now, times have changed, and Lindenwood is a co-ed school. I just need to point that out. All right, guys, we are on page 99 of this book. We will finish this book for sure next time. So if you guys like this video, be sure to like it. You can dislike it if you dislike it. I can't think of anything to say if you dislike it. You can just hit the dislike button if you did. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button, become a member of the Crypto Crew today, guys. And again, be sure to enter that giveaway that I have. It ends next Sunday. It ends a week from today. So just follow the prompts in there to enter for your chance to win the little clay cryptid that I can make for you guys. And with that being said, guys, I hope you have a great week. I'm going to probably try to film a cryptid rain sometime this week, maybe tomorrow, most likely, because I got to do some stuff tonight. So I'm going to try for that tomorrow. I need to still work on my new series and everything. So if you guys have any paranormal videos, pictures, clips, even of cryptids or anything that you want to send me, just send it to my social media. Links for those are in the description below. And so be sure to check that out. Oh, and there's the cuckoo clock. And, yeah, if you guys have stories, be sure to send them to me, because I could start doing some narrations, honestly. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Have a great, great rest of your week, and be safe, guys. I will see you next time. You've been watching Cryptocast. I've been your host, Parker. Stay spooky, and I'll see you guys in the next video.